Hi everybody, my name is Astrid from Expats Portugal, and welcome to another, for our first for 2024 webinar, where we're going to be talking about life in Cascais and tips and tricks about buying property in this area as well. If you've got any questions for our special guest, Wiley, she's a buyer's agent who focuses solely on the Cascais area, so she knows the area like the back of her hand. She's the right person for you to ask. Please feel free at any stage today to put your questions in the chat. We'll get through to that. And then after the recording, we'll stop and we'll do more intimate questions here as well. I think that's it. Carl, so over to you.
Great. Thank you, Astrid. Happy New Year, everybody. Great to have you here. Wiley, lovely to see you again.
Thank you. You as well.
It's been a while, and what a year it's been. Cascais are always very popular. And that hasn't slowed down at all, has it? Would you like to give us a quick finger on the pulse of Cascais at the moment? Happy New Year to you, Bill, by the way.
Thank you. I think coming from a buyer's agent perspective and to see this the supply and demand, it's not shifted. It's I still see new builds happening. It's interesting to see the type of properties that they're building. I tend to find them a little cookie cutter. I would love to see something different. I would love to see something that looks a little bit more Portuguese with a kind of a modern twist. But unfortunately, we're getting a lot of sugar cubes, just a lot of modern builds. Yeah. I like what's going on with reference to some of the properties that are being built. They're a little more gated. So there's a little bit more of an American feel to them. There's some concierge. There's a little bit more updated opportunities for people to have something like they had back home. So that's happening somewhat, but it's unfortunate again that they're overbuilding. According to me, if any of you were in Cascais 5-10 years ago, there was a little bit more feeling of it was more voluminous between the buildings. There's more space, and it was more of an open feeling. So I would love to see more of the builds happening a little bit further back, and people having the desire to move a little bit further away from Cascais to really get a feel for the beauty of the landscape and everything it has to offer.
Good. Well, we'll talk about that, won't we? The tactics for doing exactly that. That's wonderful. So it's continuing to cook very nicely, the whole property scene there, and price is still on a par with central Lisbon by the sound of it.
Yes.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Incredible, isn't it? Okay, so we'll talk more about that. Thank you, Denise. Good evening to you in South Africa. Do please let us know where you're tuning in from tonight. That'd be wonderful. And it's lovely to have you here in 2024. Wiley, can we rewind a little bit so that for people who don't know you, to find out more about you and your backstory here in Portugal, how did you get to be here in this country? And what's your background that you based being a buyer's agent on?
Okay, great. Being from the United States originally, I have a license in 2 states of the United States. Every state you live in, you have to take a new real estate license in. That doesn't change much because there are no licenses here. I believe they stopped that in 2008. So that gave me a little bit of an upper hand because I understand the process for buying properties in the United States. Then moved to Sweden for 28 years and then retired to Portugal. Had a similar process as Jackie did, where we both kind of bumped up against when we were buying a property, a buyer's agent that really wasn't representing us or our needs. And that's kind of, I think, where my business started, knowing that if I could have had someone who had more information or was willing to share it honestly with me, that I would have been in a better position for my space. So I think that that's kind of a synopsis of why we become buyer's agents. Owning my own company because I didn't necessarily agree with a lot of the things that we were supposed to do with other large companies. So I decided to start my own. Brilliant. You guys have been great. Together with you guys, it's been a really wonderful way to start a business with the support of expats and the type of clients that come through expat. It's been really wonderful.
Excellent stuff. Okay, so we'll talk specifically about the area, Cascais, of course, and around there in the area that you specialize in. And that's a really wonderful thing about you. I'm sure it's very tempting to want to take on all of Portugal and sell as much property as possible.
No, I don't.
You're very focused, aren't you, in your geographical area. Let's sort of take the wide picture then, first of all, and the importance of having a buyer's agent. And by the way, before you answer that and focus a bit more on the importance of having a buyer's agent here at this particular time of buying property here in Portugal, I think your sugar cubes description has struck quite the nerve with people. That made me laugh out loud, I have to say. It's You do look like sugar cubes, don't they? A lot of these new builds. Grace and Charlie are in from Seattle, where it's unexpectedly sunny today. We call those sugar cubes Lego homes. There are
Yeah.
definitely a lot of them in Seattle as well, the dominant building style. And George, if sugar cubes or Lego homes are so unpopular, then why do they build so many? Can you answer that before we get going into buyer's agents? Is it just like, built to a pattern? It's what the building industry knows, so they continue to build them?
It's easy.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. They're linear. I mean, cut, copy, paste. They don't have to have any personality. They can just pop them out left, right, and center, and ultimately people buy them. But I'm getting a lot of pushback from my clients on why they don't want to. I have clients from LA saying, "Why are we moving from LA to Portugal to buy a house that we can buy in LA?" I mean,
Good point. Fair point.
Right? I mean, it's just the Portuguese houses, by and large, traditionally, the older ones have smaller windows and lower ceilings. And so open the windows, increase the ceilings, but give us the character of the house. And I think it's the character that scares people. I know buying and selling a large house myself for profit, the architect kept pushing back on me saying, don't make it personal. Don't make it characterful. Just give them something that's black and white. And I completely disagree with them. I don't think that's true at all.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Cost effective, says Denise, and that makes sense, doesn't it? That it is a sort of blueprint, literally.
Sure. Right.
And it's a cost effective and easy way to do things. And I think the building industry is quite conservative and tends to repeat itself, doesn't it?
Agreed.
Yeah. Hi, Wiley, says Jen, Ken and Jen. After our visit last year, you definitely changed our minds about the Cascais area. Great area, lots to do. We particularly enjoyed our hike. And it's fair to say, isn't it, that you'll qualify people in or out of the area. So this will be a very interesting webinar tonight, where you can find out if Cascais and surrounding area is really for you. And Wiley will be very straight with you about that. That's what we've got used to with Wiley. So we'll talk more about the specific area after we've had a look at the importance of buyer's agents. And you alluded to it, but this is a fairly new thing in Portugal, isn't it? You might imagine, coming from somewhere else in the world, that the estate agents, the real estate agents, have got your interests at heart, but they're really working for the seller, aren't they? Give us a little bit more perspective and context about that, if you will, and what people can expect from a buyer's agent and working with you.
Well, as Jen was just saying, so one of the things that I like to do is I like to drive people through neighborhoods so they understand the differences, because I really kind of compartmentalize Cascais in a number of different neighborhoods. And I really believe everyone should try. I suggest people come in and rent Airbnbs, this side for 30 days, this side for 30 days, and this side for 30 days, because there's a sweet spot for everyone, what they're looking for. I also try, as we took a hike up to the very peak in the forest, so they can get this aerial view of Cascais, because many people are fixated on that, maybe that they have to be in Gandeirinha. And once they get up there and they see that Gandeirinha is next door to this and next door to this, then they're like, oh, so it's not that big. It's not that far away. And so I try to give them an overview of all those different things. I have a story just recently, last week, we're trying to put in a bid in on a house that's behind Casa de Guia. There's a Repsol station where there was a water filtration center for Aqua Cascais. Certain days, and we know, everyone knows living in Cascais, that certain days it doesn't smell well. There's an open sewer system. It blows back in the apartment sometimes, and sometimes we have this scent. But this is a particular scent. And I wanted to make sure that the clients knew this before they purchased.
Yeah.
So we called the condo association to find out if anything was going on with the scent, finds out that they've all are dismayed with that scent. So they've put together a petition. I called a number of other agents who have offices in the area and asked them. They all had opinions about it. And so we got to the bottom of the scent. Because I can't let them buy a house if the scent is an issue. I'd rather walk away than have them be put in a position where they wake up every morning going, wait a minute, what's that smell?
Yeah.
So really, and so now that they have all the information and they still want to buy, that's fine. But at least they know what they're getting into. And I think that's really my point as a buyer's agent is, wherever we are, we should make sure that we know the neighborhood really well. We should visit it in the morning. We should visit it in the afternoon. We should visit it in the evenings. We should visit on the weekends. We need to know if there's a football field close enough where the lights are shining on you. We need to know if there's something that happens that didn't happen on Monday that happens in the evenings, Monday mornings, but not Monday evenings. And so I'm always looking for the loophole. I'm always looking for the mold. I'm always looking for the loud neighbors, the barking dogs. I always want to make sure that they have as much information as they can to make sure that when they buy that house, they're not surprised.
Right.
So that's the goal of a buyer's agent is to make sure that you never walk in blind.
Wow, that's amazing. And it's quite a commitment, isn't it? Both ways is what the picture I'm forming here. You're very committed to your clients, and you expect to give them a lot. And so it's quite a close working relationship. This isn't,
Agreed.
they're not
Absolutely.
just going to call you occasionally. This is going to be quite a commitment from both sides, isn't it? And one that's going to be fruitful because of that.
That's my hope.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. Brilliant. LaRonda, I'm not down with the scents. These aren't heaven scents, are they, that we're talking about? I lived near a feedlot years ago. That afternoon wind, phew. So
Yeah.
it's great that you do that and go into that sort of detail. And yeah, so that's what Wiley's all about, as being a buyer's agent in this particular area that we'll talk about now. Cascais, actually, before the start of the call, it is increasingly popular, isn't it? We talk of places, tourist places in Portugal, as having a shoulder. It sounds like there's just a head now with Cascais. Is it busy? Is it busy with tourism all year round now?
Yeah, and the thing is that, they changed the parking meters in October and then put them back up. So when the tourists leave and the lifeguards leave, they change all the beach parking meters for the residents. So it's less expensive for them to park there. And then during the season when there are no lifeguards, things are less expensive in those neighborhoods for parking and such. And then they bring them back up and the tourists come back in. And although they continue to do that now, we don't see a differentiation between when the tourists leave and when the residents kind of, have the backyard all to themselves. This is unfair a little bit this year because they did a lot of road work. They've done a lot of new sidewalks, getting rid of potholes. So one of the things I love about Cascais is they're really hands-on. Like the roads look great, the sidewalks look great. There's always new landscaping, there's always new flowers, but there's still a lot of traffic because of it, because they close off roads to do those things. But going back to the differentiation between when the tourists are there and when the residents are there, I don't see the differences any longer. I really can see how many people have moved in now, especially if you're driving past the schools in the mornings where the parents are lining up. It's amazing to me.
Okay,
How
so
many?
it's the price of popularity, isn't it? And I'd rather not talk about parking if we may tonight, because I got a parking ticket.
Me
I
too.
came to your beautiful village or city. We'll talk about that as well, won't we? Because Cascais has a very special status with what it's called, how it's known as a conurbation. But I got a parking ticket. Had a lovely day in Cascais, meeting friends. They'd flown over, staying in Lisbon. Let's come and meet you in Cascais. I thought it was Christmas freebie parking. And the meter was out of order as well. Got back at the end of a lovely day to find a piece of paper on the windscreen. A lot cheaper, has to be said, than the UK, but still not happy about that. So let's move on. And of course, given that it is getting busy in the village centre or the city centre, whichever way we're going to classify it, the idea might be to look a bit further afield into places that other people don't know about, but you know very well with your working knowledge of being there. So give us a little bit of a virtual guided tour, if you will, starting from the centre of Cascais and working out and the sort of areas that you take care of for people.
Absolutely. If we talk about the city center, let's talk about, let's say, where the train line ends. One of the things that I think is interesting for people is to find out how much time they actually want to spend in Lisbon. And if in fact they want to move to Cascais with or without a vehicle. So if you don't want to really, first of all, Ubers are inexpensive and you don't have to really worry about owning a vehicle. But if you are going now, let's say from city center or the center of the village of Cascais, so the end of the train line, and stay on the train line where we have Cascais, then we have Monstril, then we have Stril, and then we have São Pedro and São João Stril. Those are amazing places to live, close to the beach, but also close to the train line, which gives you immediate opportunities to come into Cascais on the train or out to Lisbon on the train. So that's a different scenario for a lot of people because it's easier transportation wise, but because of that, it's also more commercial, more apartments. If you go to city center, then you're staying downtown, Old Town Cascais. A lot of people think that's a great place to live. You have to remember that everything happens in downtown Cascais. Once again, Cascais is great, bringing in Ironman and other events. And for that, it's very loud. And there's wonderful music. I mean, we have Nora Jones comes in and sings, but she's really almost in the historic district. And we have the Ironman. Then we have Harley Davidson Week. We have Vintage Car Week, and many others. And then in the wintertime we have the Ferris wheel. But there's always something going on downtown, and because it's so tight, anytime they have music or they have a loudspeaker, you're woken up by it. You're forced to be part of that. So downtown historic district isn't as charming as you'd think it would be because you're so involved in the noise of what's going on with the tourism or with the events. Past that, when you go into Gandarinha, and Barrio de Rosario and Guia, Casa de Guia over to the Quintas, which is kind of really far away. There are larger homes, larger properties, less apartments, but it's not on the train line. It's also not on the beaches. Because once you get to the downtown village and you go left, that's really where the cliffs happen. So if you're on the boardwalk that walks all the way in front of the water, the Parede from the train station in towards Lisbon, that's all beaches. But in the opposite direction, going up, then you get that same water and the same Parede, but you now get cliffs. So there's not a lot of beaches there, so there's less tourism there. So if you're looking for a quieter area, you might want to choose the village of Cascais and upwards towards Silver Coast, towards Cabaroca, all those areas. It's a different vibe completely.
And do you represent all of these areas?
Absolutely.
Right. Okay. Okay.
Wiley, hi, Wiley. I happen to live in that area myself, and we live right by Casa de Guia. We could walk to Casa de Guia. And I think your recommendation is a great one because we're far enough away from the action that we never see the tourists. We never have any kind of interaction with that. If we want to go out to dinner, we could take a short walk. We're in Casa de Guia. There's plenty of restaurants there, all with ocean views. And it's also the start, I believe, where we are, of the UNESCO World Heritage Site. So we have tons of green space. We have a dog park. And if I walk to downtown Cascais, you know, on a Saturday night, I'll even walk with my dogs and dine outside because I can. You could even now dine in many restaurants inside with dogs because the laws recently changed.
It's true.
So
it's great.
there's so many options if you just want to walk, and it's the most spectacular walk you'll ever see.
Ever. And safe. And so safe.
It's safe, it's spectacular. And I think every time I walk along the bike path, not like California where it's obstructed by homes, but this is a pure ocean view of cliffs.
It's
And if you've ever lived in Laguna Beach, let's say, it often reminds me of Laguna Beach and the cliff area of Laguna Beach, California. So I think your suggestion is a great one. And when I would also love to tell everybody here why I think using a buyer's agent.
I wanted to ask you about that, Jackie. Yeah, one of the things I hear most from you, and I'm sad to say this slightly, is that you often say, I wish we'd had that when we moved to Portugal. And this is included, is it not? The proposition of having a buyer's agent.
Well, I often tell people I do consults with, I made every assumption and therefore every mistake you could possibly make when purchasing my home. Now, ultimately, a few friends who were Portuguese and American kind of saved us. But I will say the first thing I thought, and this, I had a very good agent. This is the way they do business here. So I had a very good agent. And let's say something as simple as I used Remax thinking that my agent was representing me. I did not realize that I was not being represented. She was representing the seller. So what are the ramifications of that? The ramifications are we took a small loan and I said, well, aren't we going to get an inspection? She says, no, they don't ask for inspections in Portugal. I thought that was strange. She goes, well, don't worry about it. It's a great building. I mean, she was like, you don't need an inspection. Okay. So of course I had a friend, thank goodness, said my brother is a contractor, have him at least look at the place. So I did. But even he missed things. The seller does not have to disclose any issues with the property. And so we were like, wait, why didn't the seller ever tell us our fireplace doesn't work? This is the other really big thing about, and this is 4 years ago, so the market was very different. I said to my realtor, I said, I want to offer less than they're asking by about 40,000. She didn't encourage me, but she didn't discourage me, but she didn't encourage me. What happened was the sellers who inherited the property took my offer. And she said to me, I'm not surprised they took your offer. I said, why would you say that? She said, because the seller was asking me if he was charging too much. And I said, it never occurred to you to give me that piece of information, right? Like, why wouldn't you have told me that? Because that would completely influence what I was willing to offer on the property. And it's just one thing after another, like even thinking that she was like, look, she never explained to me that they're building ratings. You know, Jerry's great. He tells everybody, look at the rating of your building. That never occurred to me. Now, we're very happy here. It's not a high-rated building, but it seems we're on the ground floor, so it's very comfortable. But even using an attorney at RE/MAX, she goes, I said, I think I'm going to get my own attorney. She goes, don't waste your money, use our attorney. Well, that attorney was representing them. It wasn't representing us. So I try to explain the difference, why you need a buyer's agent, especially people coming from the UK, especially people coming from the US, because, well, maybe they're a lot smarter than me, but I thought RE/MAX in the US is RE/MAX here. It is a completely different animal. And you really need a buyer's agent to explain. You don't even know what to ask, because you can't imagine that something as basic as a seller not disclosing is even possible.
Yeah, right.
So these were the things I learned. And this is what I completely appreciate what you do. I think it's amazing. And I think if anyone is going to make a purchase like that, they'd be nuts not to use a buyer's agent. Why make every mistake I made?
Thank you, Jackie. The big takeaway there, I think, is checking assumptions, isn't it? Because you will come and you'll think things are done a certain way. And certainly you had your eyes opened to how it wasn't like the system that you were used to. Would you like to add anything? Thanks, Jackie. Would you like to add anything to that, Wiley? Is that a familiar story that you hear?
It is a familiar story. I was at a party the other day and someone came up to me and said, you know, I understand you sold the owners their house. They said we should use you as a buyer's agent. We didn't even know they had buyer's agents here. So once again, it is a well-kept secret. And I said, well, what have you done so far? And they said, we've seen 7 houses with 7 agents. And we're pretty sure that most of them were lying to us and we've never been here before.
Whoa.
I'm like, wow.
Yes.
To not know anything about Portugal or the process here, but already have your spidey sensors are like, someone's not telling the truth.
Mm-hmm.
And what are you supposed to do? They represent the seller. The more money the seller makes, the more money they make. And sometimes the commission structure is really low when it comes to the splits between the agencies. And so they don't want to give their money away by suggesting you buy for less.
And that'll be you that loses out on that, of course, in that part of the equation. Yes, as the buyer. Wow, quite amazing. And I noticed there, clearly you build good friendships with your clients, being invited to the parties of people's whose
I sold the house during COVID. It was during COVID, and I had already gotten COVID very early on. We saw 51 houses together during COVID. It was fascinating. Wow. So yeah, and I'm also the godmother because I was the only one who could see the baby because everyone else was in lockdown. So yeah,
well, safe to say you build good relationships with people as a result of your job there. I think godmother and invited to the parties. That's amazing. Okay, Sloan is asking, hola Wiley, I'm very far along in the process of buying a lot in Parede to build my forever family home. It's a 5-minute walk to the train station. I love the location in between Cascais and Lisbon, and it is great to be along that line, isn't it? There, the new build will be a modern build with a Portuguese flavour. That's nice. A sugar cube with a top note of bacalhau, you might say. So that's, the new build with a Portuguese flavour. What's your general opinion of the Parede neighbourhood? Also, from an investment standpoint, do you expect it to appreciate in parallel with nearby Cascais or Estoril?
Oh my gosh, yes, and forgive me, I only go as far as São João, so I'm not a Parede expert. But I have clients who keep asking to go over there, and I keep thinking I don't know it well enough to represent you over there. So I'm trying. But Parede is absolutely more eyes on Parede nowadays. 100%. Yeah, there you go. Ask Astrid.
Can I
That's where I
add
live.
something to that one? Can I add
Yes,
one
there's
thing?
a queue. There's a queue for this. I think Jackie first, and then we'll come to you, Astrid.
Okay, one, my older son lives in Parede, and it's close to Carcavelos. And I think that place is going to explode because Novo University is there. They have a top-rated business school. It's
True.
all English, so only English speakers go there. But they're also, I believe, they're building a medical school as well. And as that university becomes more prestigious, and it is, I think that whole area, Parede, Carcavelos, I think they're going to go crazy. So that's just my observation.
Thanks, Jackie. Astrid?
I live in Parede. I love it. It's close to Cascais still. It probably takes me 10-15 minutes to get to the centre of Cascais. Close to Carcavelos, which is the very, very well-known beach in the area. It's got the linea, which is the train line that runs through too, which is very convenient, and it's great. It's a very sort of family orientated area, I think, and not a lot of Portuguese families still here too, so it's not completely inundated with foreign people. It's kind of a nice blend.
Very
Agreed.
good, thank you. And you're getting towards a very good Mexican restaurant, I think, aren't you, along that direction there? Am I right in thinking that? Which I know is very important to American people.
Is it
Mexican-
Paco Lopez?
I think Jackie was giving me a thumbs up on the Mexican restaurant that's along the
Yeah, it's the one by the train station.
Oh yeah,
Paco Lopez. Yeah, lovely.
Okay, very good.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, very
These
good
things are important.
margaritas.
Yep, good. Okay, I'm glad I squeezed that in as well. Thank you very much with the squish of lime. Okay, this is very useful info, says Diana. Wiley, can you describe how your typical home search process works with a client, that is? I'm looking at Google Maps as I listen. That's fantastic. People checking out Google Maps as well. And if you want a repetition of any of the names of the places, just shout out if you will. So yeah, Wiley, can you pick that up? How does it work, and how is it structured? What does it cost? What sort of relationship are people getting into with you?
Okay. Initially, I would, most of them, your clients are definitely coming in from overseas. So we start with a Zoom meeting, much like this, to see if I can qualify whether I'm the right person for them. If in fact we do agree on that, then I kind of give them the lay of the land. First thing is, when you contact an agent through Idealista saying, hey, I like this property, send me more information, you're basically signing a contract saying you're now represented by them. And it's horrible, but that's the way it is. So if you do have an Idealista kind of small addiction to Idealista, be careful of how many agents you to write to, because once you do that, you almost prevent me, and I have a way of getting around it, but you almost prevent me from working with you because they now believe that they have some form of ownership on you. So that's a tricky thing. So, but I try to give them that information to begin with, and then we set up a time where we set up maybe a doc between us where we'll send some houses back and forth, so I get a feel for what they're looking for, what their style is, and then I'll start sending them properties and set up a date when they're going to be coming in. If we're looking at rentals, I don't suggest that they start looking more than, unless you're going to pay for a rental 6-8 weeks in advance, there's really no reason to come in because they go so quickly still. So that's a hard thing. So that's renting. From a buying perspective, we can start as early as you want to start to look for it. But again, the market goes very quickly. So your house might not be here when you get here. So maybe not more than 8-12 weeks in advance to think that your house will still be available on the market. And then when they get here, I would hope that we would meet and I would have the opportunity to drive them through the neighborhoods that we're looking at, to describe the pros and cons of each one of those neighborhoods based on what their needs are. And then we start setting up our appointments. I would love to do 3-4 a day, if we can, maybe more, preferably not less, because it's great to be able to start comparing and contrasting. I always, if you say your budget is $1 million, I try to go up to a 1.2 because we're still going to offer way under that price and build it back up as we work through it. Or if you say $1 million, I'll even look at 800 because we might look at something that's not what you were thinking, but we can put 200 into it. So I usually have those two windows. And my services are completely free. I don't charge at all for anything that I do. And if it turns out that we don't end up working together, then that's just the way it is. At least one more person when you move to Cascais.
All right, excellent. There you go. Thank you for explaining there. And Diana, thank you for your kind words. LaRonda saying, yeah, people will never tell you everything when they're trying to get rid of something and get money for it. However, if you do have Wiley on your side, she'll be able to sniff out a few things that the newcomer and the green person won't be able to see. LaRonda, also a licensed real estate salesperson in California for 28 years, not working at this time. However, I considered working in the industry in Portugal until I started researching. No way, says LaRonda, having had a little look at that. And Sloan says, my wife is Mexican. Funny, we're looking at opening a tamale shop in Parede. I don't know what that is, but I'm guessing it's something to do with Mexican food, right?
Yes, do it.
Okay. All right. That's got a thumbs up. And Sloan, very happy. Obrigado to your earlier comments there, Wiley. I think we'll pause and we'll conclude this part of the webinar, unless there's anything else you'd like to add, or Jackie or Astrid. Oh, I know who we haven't heard from, because there is a little bit of a Cascais Dream Team in this evening. We've got the regular Dream Team session at 9 this evening, and we've got a Cascais Dream Team. Is there anything else you wanted to add, Wiley, before we conclude on this open part of the webinar?
Be open to areas a little bit outside of Cascais. Be open to areas like Malvera de Sara, coming up into Alcabadesh, coming over to the San João Estoril areas. I understand everyone wants to be on this side of 95. Okay, I'm in the United States right now. Sorry. They want to be on this side of the highway on the 5, and I get that. I understand that. But there is life on the other side, and we'd certainly look forward to exploring it.
Life on the other side of the 5. If you want to know more about that, get in touch with Wiley, who you can find in the Expats Portugal business directory. That's superb, Wiley. Thank you very much. Great to be speaking to you again, and all the best to you in 2024. And I'm sure you have people who are going to be making their lives here in 2024 in that particular part of the world who will be in touch with you. So let's pause it right there.
Okay.